Before Jennifer Lopez became J.Lo, before the King of Queens creator found success, and before Jesse Jackson called for a network boycott, there was South Central, a groundbreaking 1994 Fox sitcom that featured a future superstar as a Spanish-speaking cashier, a Broadway legend as a next-door neighbor, and a production controversy so intense it sparked national civil rights protests. Here are the bizarre behind-the-scenes stories you never knew. Fact 1. Jennifer Lopez's third acting credit. Long before she became the global superstar known as J.Lo, Jennifer Lopez was grinding it out as a struggling actress in Hollywood, taking whatever roles she could find. In 1994, Lopez landed a recurring role on the Fox sitcom South Central, playing a character named Lucille who worked as a Spanish-speaking cashier at the neighborhood grocery co-op, where the main character Joan Mosley also worked. This wasn't just any small role for Lopez, it was actually only her third professional acting job ever. She had just finished her stint as one of the famous Fly Girls dancers on In Living Color, which had ended in 1993, and was desperately trying to transition from dancing into serious acting work. Her manager at the time, Eric Gold, who was also a producer on In Living Color, had advised her that if she wanted to succeed as an actress, she needed to lose weight and take whatever acting opportunities came her way. Lopez appeared in 4 episodes of South Central as Lucille, a co-worker alongside the show's lead character Joan, played by Tina Lifford. The character of Lucille was specifically written as Spanish-speaking, which made perfect sense for Lopez, who is of Puerto Rican descent and grew up in a bilingual household in the Bronx. What makes this casting even more interesting is that the show's creators, Ralph Farquhar and Michael J. Waythorn, were committed to authentic representation and hired Lopez not just for her looks, but because she could naturally deliver lines in Spanish without needing coaching or accent work. At the time Lopez filmed these episodes, she had no idea that within just a few years, she would become one of the biggest entertainers in the world. She was simply a 24-year-old former dancer trying to make it in Hollywood, taking a small recurring role on a critically acclaimed but short-lived sitcom that most people today have never heard of. Fact 2. Broadway legend in a sitcom. One of the most surprising casting choices in South Central was the decision to bring Paula Kelly, a genuine Broadway legend and Tony Award winner, to play Sweets, Joan's next-door neighbor and best friend. This was an incredibly unusual move in 1994, when Broadway stars rarely appeared in network television sitcoms, especially ones that were produced on smaller budgets like South Central. Paula Kelly was already a major figure in American theater by the time she joined the show. She had won a Tony Award and was considered one of the most distinguished performers on Broadway, known for her powerful voice and commanding stage presence. Her background was in serious dramatic and musical theater, making her appearance on a Fox sitcom about an urban family particularly unexpected. Most Broadway stars of her caliber typically either stayed in theater or moved to prestigious dramatic television shows or films, not half-hour comedy series. Kelly's character Sweets served as Joan Mosley's trusted confidant and the voice of wisdom in the neighborhood. She was written as someone who had seen it all and could offer both humor and genuine advice to Joan as she struggled to raise her children in South Central Los Angeles. The writers took advantage of Kelly's natural charisma and stage-trained voice, giving her some of the show's most memorable lines, and allowing her to display both comedic timing and emotional depth. What made this casting even more remarkable was that Kelly was willing to take on a supporting role in a show that many people in the industry weren't sure would succeed. The show was tackling serious social issues and wasn't following the typical sitcom formula, which meant it was a risk for everyone involved. Kelly's decision to join the cast brought a level of theatrical credibility to South Central that helped elevate the show's performances and gave it a unique flavor that set it apart from other family sitcoms of the era. Fact 3. The mute foster child mystery. One of the most unusual character choices in South Central was the decision to make Dion Carter, Joan's foster son, played by young actor Keith Mbulo, completely mute throughout the entire series. This was an incredibly bold and uncommon creative decision for a family sitcom in 1994, when most shows relied heavily on dialogue and verbal comedy to drive their storylines. Dion was portrayed as Joan Mosley's foster child who lived in the household alongside her biological children Andre and Tasha. But unlike every other character on the show, he never spoke a single word during any episode. The writers never explicitly explained why Dion was mute, whether it was due to trauma, a medical condition, or simply a personality trait, which added an element of mystery to his character that was rarely seen in sitcoms of that era. What made this character choice even more interesting was how the show handled Dion's presence in family scenes. Instead of treating him as a background character or writing him out of important moments, the writers found creative ways to include him in storylines and family interactions without giving him dialogue. Keith Mbulo had to rely entirely on facial expressions, body language, and physical acting to convey Dion's emotions and reactions to the various family dramas unfolding around him. The decision to include a mute foster child as a main character was part of the show's broader commitment to representing realistic family situations that weren't typically shown on television. Many real families deal with children who have special needs or communication challenges, and the writers of South Central wanted to acknowledge these experiences without making Dion's muteness the focus of every episode or turning it into a gimmick for cheap emotional moments. This subtle approach to including diversity in family dynamics was ahead of its time for network television. Fact 4. Jesse Jackson's network boycott. When Fox Network canceled South Central in June of 1994 after only 10 episodes, it sparked a major controversy that reached all the way to the highest levels of civil rights activism in America. The Reverend Jesse Jackson, one of the most prominent civil rights leaders in the country, publicly called for a boycott of the Fox network, accusing them of what he termed perceived institutional racism in their programming decisions. The reason Jackson was so upset wasn't just about South Central alone, but about what Fox had done to their entire Tuesday night lineup. In a move that television industry insiders called the Tuesday Night Massacre, Fox simultaneously canceled every single show that aired on Tuesday evenings, which included South Central, Rock, The Sinbad Show, and even the final season of In Living Color. What made this particularly controversial was that all of these canceled shows featured predominantly black casts and were specifically created to serve African American audiences. Jackson argued that Fox's decision to wipe out an entire night of programming that featured black performers and storylines was evidence of institutional racism within the network's decision-making process. He pointed out that these shows weren't just randomly canceled for poor ratings, but were all eliminated together as part of a broader programming strategy that seemed to deliberately remove black voices from the network's schedule. Jackson's boycott call gained significant media attention and put Fox executives in the uncomfortable position of having to publicly defend their programming choices. Fox network officials responded by insisting that their decisions were purely based on ratings and financial considerations, not racial bias. They maintained that the Tuesday night shows were all performing poorly in the ratings, and that their decision to replace them with Tuesday night movies was strictly a business decision designed to improve their overall network performance and advertising revenue. Fact 5. Confusion over episode count. One of the most puzzling mysteries surrounding South Central is the ongoing disagreement about how many episodes were actually produced for the show, with different sources providing completely contradictory information that has confused television historians and fans for decades. The official records from Fox Network and most television databases list the show as having produced and aired exactly 10 episodes during its brief run from April to June of 1994. However, several sources, including some cast and crew interviews from the time, claim that 13 episodes were actually produced, but only 10 of them ever made it to air before the show was canceled. This discrepancy has created a persistent mystery in television history, with researchers unable to definitively determine which number is correct or what happened to the supposedly missing episodes if they actually exist. The confusion is made worse by the fact that different entertainment industry publications from 1994 reported different episode counts. Some television guides and industry magazines listed the show as having 13 episodes in their season previews, while others consistently reported 10 episodes throughout the show's run. Even today, various online databases and television reference sources continue to list different episode totals, with some showing 10 episodes and others showing 13. What makes this mystery particularly frustrating for television historians is that the show's production company, Slick Mac Productions, was formed specifically for South Central and dissolved shortly after the show ended, meaning that many of the original production records may have been lost or destroyed over the years. The show's creators, Ralph Farquhar and Michael J. Whitehorn, have given interviews over the years, but have never definitively addressed the episode count discrepancy, leaving fans and researchers to continue debating whether those 3 additional episodes were ever actually completed, or if they only existed in the planning stages. Fact 6. Future Moshe reunion. One of the most interesting connections in television history happened when 2 young actors from South Central ended up working together again on a much more successful show just 2 years later. Lamont Bentley, who played Rashad, Andre's best friend on South Central, and Shar Jackson, who played a character named Janelle, both landed roles on the UPN sitcom Moshe when it premiered in 1996. This reunion was particularly meaningful because Moshe was co-created by Ralph Farquhar, one of the same writers and producers who had created South Central. After his first show was canceled by Fox, Farquhar partnered with Sarah Finney and Vita Spears to develop Moshe for the UPN network, and he clearly remembered the talent he had worked with on his previous project. When it came time to cast the new show, Farquhar brought back both Bentley and Jackson, giving them another chance to work together and develop their acting careers. On Moshe, Lamont Bentley played Hakeem Campbell, who became one of the show's most popular recurring characters and eventually a main cast member. Shar Jackson joined the cast as Niecy Jackson, Moshe's best friend, and remained with the show throughout most of its 6-season run. The chemistry that Bentley and Jackson had developed while working together on South Central translated perfectly to their new roles, and both actors became fan favorites on the more successful series. What makes this connection even more interesting is that Moshe was set in Leimert Park, a middle-class neighborhood in Los Angeles that was actually located near the South Central area where their previous show had taken place. This meant that Bentley and Jackson essentially went from playing characters in one Los Angeles neighborhood to playing characters in a nearby but very different part of the same city, showcasing the diversity of African American experiences in Los Angeles. Fact 7. The King of Queens connection. The cancellation of South Central turned out to be just a temporary setback for co-creator Michael J. Whitehorn, who would go on to achieve massive television success with one of the most popular sitcoms of the late 1990s and early 2000s. After his groundbreaking but short-lived Fox series ended, Whitehorn continued working in television and eventually created The King of Queens for CBS, which premiered in 1998 and ran for 9 successful seasons. The King of Queens became everything that South Central wasn't in terms of commercial success and longevity. The show starred Kevin James as Doug Heffernan, a delivery driver living in Queens, New York, with his wife Carrie, played by Leah Remini, and her eccentric father Arthur, played by Jerry Stiller from Seinfeld. The series ran for 207 episodes over 9 seasons, making it one of the longest-running sitcoms in CBS history, and turning Kevin James into a major television star. What makes this connection particularly interesting is how different the two shows were in almost every way imaginable. While South Central was a groundbreaking, socially conscious comedy drama that tackled serious issues facing African-American families in urban Los Angeles, The King of Queens was a more traditional mainstream sitcom that focused on the everyday marital and family problems of a working-class white couple in New York. The contrast shows Whitehorn's range as a writer and his ability to create successful television content for completely different audiences and networks. Whitehorn's journey from the cancelled South Central to the hugely successful King of Queens demonstrates how television writers can learn from both their failures and successes. The experience of creating a critically acclaimed but commercially unsuccessful show like South Central likely taught Waythorn valuable lessons about balancing artistic vision with mainstream appeal, lessons that he clearly applied when developing his next major project. Fact 8. Shared name with famous film. One of the most confusing aspects of the 1994 television series South Central is that it shares its exact title with a critically acclaimed movie that was released just 2 years earlier in 1992. The film, South Central, starring Glenn Plummer and produced by Oliver Stone, was a powerful crime drama about gang violence and redemption in Los Angeles that received widespread praise from critics and was considered one of the best independent films of 1992. Despite having identical titles and both being set in the same South Central Los Angeles neighborhood, the television show and the movie have absolutely no connection to each other whatsoever. They were created by completely different writers, produced by different companies, featured entirely different casts, and told completely unrelated stories. The film was a dark, serious drama about a former gang member trying to save his son from following the same path, while the television show was a comedy drama about a single mother trying to raise her family in the same neighborhood. This naming coincidence has created decades of confusion among viewers, researchers, and even entertainment industry professionals who often mix up references to the two projects. Online databases and reference sources frequently have to include disclaimers clarifying which South Central they're discussing, and many articles about either the movie or the television show include notes warning readers not to confuse them with each other. The situation became even more complicated because both the film and the television series dealt with similar themes of urban life, family struggles, and the challenges facing African American communities in Los Angeles during the early 1990s. This thematic similarity, combined with the identical titles and shared geographic setting, has led many people over the years to assume that the television show was somehow based on or connected to the movie, when in reality they were completely separate creative projects that just happened to choose the same name. Fact 9. Smaller budget production. South Central was produced on a significantly smaller budget than most network sitcoms of the early 1990s, yet this financial constraint actually seemed to help the show achieve the authentic, realistic feel that critics consistently praised throughout its brief run. While most Fox sitcoms of that era had substantial production budgets that allowed for elaborate sets, expensive guest stars, and flashy production values, South Central was created by its production company Slick Mac Productions, with much more limited financial resources. The smaller budget meant that the show's creators, Ralph Farquhar and Michael J. Waythorn, had to be creative about how they told their stories and brought their vision to life. Instead of relying on expensive special effects, elaborate set pieces, or high-profile guest appearances, they focused their limited resources on strong writing, authentic dialogue, and realistic character development that reflected the actual experiences of families living in urban Los Angeles neighborhoods. This budgetary limitation actually worked in the show's favor when it came to creating an authentic atmosphere. The sets looked lived in rather than polished. The costumes appeared to be clothes that real people would actually wear rather than expensive wardrobe pieces, and the overall production design had a grounded, realistic quality that helped viewers believe they were watching a real family deal with real problems rather than a glossy television fantasy. Critics at the time specifically noted how the show's modest production values contributed to its effectiveness as a realistic portrayal of urban life. Television reviewers praised the way South Central avoided the stereotypical portrayals of African American families that were common in higher-budget sitcoms, instead presenting characters and situations that felt genuine and relatable. The show's ability to achieve critical acclaim despite its financial limitations demonstrated that strong writing and authentic performances could be more important than expensive production values when it came to creating meaningful television. Fact 10. Tuesday Night Massacre. In what television industry insiders dubbed the Tuesday Night Massacre, Fox Network made the unprecedented decision, in 1994, to cancel every single show in their entire Tuesday evening lineup all at the same time, rather than making individual cancellation decisions based on each show's specific performance. This sweeping programming move eliminated 4 different series in one fell swoop: South Central, Rock, The Sinbad Show, and even the final season of the legendary sketch comedy series, In Living Color. This kind of mass cancellation was virtually unheard of in television history, where networks typically evaluate shows individually and make cancellation decisions based on each program's unique ratings, critical reception, and demographic appeal. Instead of taking this traditional approach, Fox executives decided to completely abandon their Tuesday night strategy and replace all 4 shows with a single programming block called Tuesday Night Movies, which would feature theatrical films rather than original television content. The decision was particularly shocking because some of these canceled shows were still performing reasonably well in the ratings and had developed loyal fan bases. In Living Color had been one of Fox's signature series for years and had launched the careers of numerous comedy stars, while Rock had been praised by critics for its realistic portrayal of working-class African-American family life. The Sinbad Show featured popular comedian Sinbad at the height of his fame, and South Central was receiving critical acclaim despite its smaller audience. Fox executives justified the Tuesday Night Massacre by claiming that the entire evening's programming block was underperforming as a whole and that replacing scripted series with movies would be more cost-effective and potentially draw larger audiences. However, the fact that all 4 canceled shows featured predominantly black casts led to significant controversy and accusations that the network was systematically eliminating African-American voices from their programming schedule. Fact 11. Stage 22 studio location. All episodes of South Central were filmed at Stage 22 of the famous 20th Century Fox Studios, located at 10,201 Pico Boulevard in Century City, Los Angeles. This meant that the cast and crew of the small-budget sitcom were working in the exact same studio complex where some of Hollywood's biggest blockbuster movies were being produced at the same time during 1994. Stage 22 was one of the many sound stages at the sprawling 20th Century Fox lot, which had been a major Hollywood production facility since the 1930s. The studio complex was home to massive film productions, with budgets in the tens of millions of dollars, featuring A-list movie stars and crews of hundreds of people. In contrast, South Central was being produced on a much smaller scale with a limited budget and a relatively small cast and crew, creating an interesting juxtaposition within the same facility. The 20th Century Fox Studios lot was designed with beautiful Art Deco architecture, and each soundstage building featured plaques outside listing the various movies and television shows that had been filmed there over the decades. Stage 22 itself had likely been used for numerous major Hollywood productions before South Central moved in, and would continue to house other projects after the show was canceled. For the young actors on South Central, including future stars like Jennifer Lopez and Lorenz Tate, working at such a prestigious studio location would have been both exciting and intimidating. They were performing their scenes on a soundstage that was part of one of Hollywood's most legendary studio complexes, surrounded by the same facilities where major motion pictures were being created. This professional environment likely contributed to the show's polished production values, despite its smaller budget, as the cast and crew had access to the same high-quality technical facilities and equipment used for major film productions. Fact 12. The slick Mac Productions logo. At the end of each episode of South Central, viewers were treated to a unique production company logo that has since become a piece of television history because it only appeared on this one short-lived series. The logo belonged to Slick Mac Productions, a company that was formed specifically by the show's 2 creators, Michael J. Waythorn and Ralph Farquhar, just to produce South Central, and was dissolved shortly after the show ended. The Slick Mac Productions logo featured a distinctive visual design that stood out from the typical production company logos of the early 1990s. It displayed the words Slick Mac in large, tall letters against an elegant marble background that was illuminated with gold and blue lighting effects. Below the main company name, the word Productions appeared in a stretched-out font style, and at the bottom of the screen, the phrase "in association with" would fade in to introduce the next logo in the sequence. What makes this logo particularly interesting to television historians and fans is that it represents a completely unique piece of television branding that existed for only 10 episodes. Unlike major production companies like Universal Television or Warner Brothers Television, which have logos that appear on hundreds of different shows over many decades, the Slick Mac Productions logo was created for just one project and disappeared forever when South Central was canceled. The logo was accompanied by the end theme music from South Central, which meant that viewers heard the same musical piece every time the logo appeared on screen. Today, this logo is considered extinct by television logo collectors and historians, since it can only be seen on the original episodes of South Central and has never appeared on any other television program. The logo serves as a visual reminder of the brief creative partnership between Waythorn and Farquhar during this particular moment in television history. Fact 13. CBS initially rejected the concept. Before South Central found its home on Fox Network, the show went through a frustrating development process at CBS that revealed the challenges faced by creators trying to produce authentic television about African American experiences in the early 1990s. Ralph Farquhar and Michael J. Waythorn originally pitched their concept to CBS executives, who initially showed interest in the project and actually bought the idea from the writers. However, after CBS purchased the concept, network executives began requesting significant changes that would have completely transformed the show's vision and message. According to the creators, CBS executives told them point blank that they were looking for something more like a 1990s version of Good Times or a Black Roseanne, referring to established sitcom formulas that they felt would be more commercially successful and easier to market to mainstream audiences. The problem was that Farquhar and Waythorn had specifically created South Central to move beyond the stereotypical portrayals of African American families that had dominated television for decades. They wanted to tell stories about real people dealing with genuine urban challenges, rather than relying on the broad comedy and exaggerated characters that shows like Good Times had used in the 1970s. The creators felt that comparing their realistic family drama to Roseanne missed the point entirely, since that show was about a white working-class family in the Midwest and didn't address the specific cultural and social issues they wanted to explore. When Farquhar and Waythorn refused to soften their concept or change it to fit CBS's preferred formulas, the network ultimately decided not to move forward with the project. This rejection led the creators to shop their idea to other networks, eventually finding a more supportive home at Fox, where executives were willing to let them maintain their original vision for authentic storytelling about African American family life. Fact 14. Pre-fame career launcher. Despite its brief run, South Central served as an important stepping stone for several young actors who would go on to achieve significant success in Hollywood throughout the rest of the 1990s and beyond. The show provided these performers with valuable television experience and helped establish their careers at a crucial early stage, when they were still relatively unknown in the entertainment industry. Lorenz Tate, who played Andre Mosley, the teenage son struggling with the temptations of street life, used his role on South Central as a launching pad for what would become a highly successful film career. Shortly after the show ended, Tate landed a memorable role in the acclaimed urban drama Menace II Society in 1993, where he played the disturbing character O-Dog with such intensity that it became one of the most talked-about performances in the film. He later starred in the romantic drama Love Jones in 1997, which showcased his range as an actor and established him as a leading man. Maya Campbell, who played Nicole, Andre's love interest from a wealthier family, went on to star in the popular UPN sitcom In the House with LL Cool J, where she played the character Tiffany Warren for several seasons. Her work on South Central demonstrated her ability to handle both comedy and drama, which served her well in her subsequent television roles. Lamont Bentley, who portrayed Rashad, Andre's best friend, became a beloved television actor best known for his role as Hakeem Campbell on the long-running UPN series Moesha. Tragically, Bentley passed away in 2005 in a car accident at the young age of 31, but his performances on both South Central and Moesha left a lasting impact on fans and demonstrated his natural comedic timing and charismatic screen presence that had been evident even during his early work on the Fox series. Fact 15. The Missing Episode Hunt. One of the strangest mysteries surrounding South Central involves a dedicated fan who spent years on what seemed like an impossible quest to find the 6th episode of the series, titled Dad, which appeared to have completely vanished from circulation. This fan discovered the show years after its original broadcast by stumbling across episodes that had been uploaded to YouTube, where they were divided into 10-minute segments, and became so captivated by the series that they watched every available episode except one. The episode Dad was particularly significant because it dealt with the return of James Mosley, the absent father of Tasha and Andre, played by actor Vondie Curtis Hall. In this episode, James unexpectedly shows up for Tasha's 14th birthday party, creating tension within the family as Joan and Andre struggle with their feelings about his sudden reappearance in their lives. The episode also featured gang members trying to crash the birthday party, leading to a confrontation that James helps defuse, much to Andre's frustration. Despite searching extensively online and checking various video-sharing platforms, the determined fan could not locate this particular episode anywhere, while all the other episodes from the series were readily available in various formats. This mysterious absence led to the creation of an urban legend among the show's small but passionate cult following, with fans speculating about why this specific episode seemed to have disappeared completely from circulation when the rest of the series remained accessible. The fans' search became so well known among South Central enthusiasts that it inspired others to join the hunt for the missing episode. Some fans theorized that the episode might have been pulled from circulation due to licensing issues with music or other content, while others wondered if there had been some kind of controversy surrounding the episode that led to its removal from digital archives and streaming platforms.